Welcome to Freedom Mentor Live. I'm your host, Phil Pustiowski, and I'm also joined by my co-host, Brian Bush. Hello, Brian.
Hey Phil, how are you this evening?
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining me. Exciting night tonight, Brian. We're going to talk about negotiating and making offers. So let's see where let's make sure that everybody's technology is working right now. If y'all could go to that little chat and click chat there and let us know where you're coming to us from. I'm coming to you from Florida, and we're in just gorgeous, gorgeous weather. We haven't gotten the humidity yet here, Brian. April in Florida is paradise. Brian is in Texas. What's the weather like out there, Brian?
We're getting a little bit of rain back and forth. I think April showers will hopefully green it up here and make for a wonderful May, but we'll see. A little too much
Okay.
rain for my liking.
Well, just so y'all know, Florida does not get rain in April. In fact, it's so dry that there tends to be wildfires, believe it or not, in the interior of Florida. So we're dry as we could be out here, and it's great, beautiful weather. All right, we got Latanya from California, and I was reminded just the other day, Brian, that Californians have to pay something like 13% state income tax. So she gets to pay for her weather. She pays for that weather tax. But you do get great weather out there, Latanya. Worcester. See, I pronounced it right, didn't I? It's not Worcester. That's Worcester, Massachusetts. Or more specifically, it's Worcester. It's Worcester. British Columbia in Canada, BC. We got Wisconsin. Michael from Wisconsin. We've got Charlotte. Oh, that's a beautiful town. And we've got Corsicana. Like that's right, Corsicana, Texas, right, Ricky? So I may have said this before, Brian, but there are more Pustiovskis than Smiths in the what was referred to as the phone book, just south of Corsicana in a town called
Right.
Hillsborough, Texas.
Nope.
DMV. Brian, do you know where that is? I don't even know.
I do not.
I was thinking of the DMV as in trying to get your driver's license, but I'm assuming that's not the case. Oh, DC, Maryland, Virginia. Okay, Antonio.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Forgive us. Forgive us. All right. No, that's a great market too. Great market. Well, so glad y'all are here tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun sharing with you insights on negotiating and making offers. And this is a topic that can make you a lot of money. It's a topic that can be used not only in real estate, but in everything, every aspect of your business life, your work life, even in your family life. There's still some negotiating that goes on, right, amongst the family members. So this is a very practical evening of insight, and certainly from a real estate perspective, it can be a game changer for you. All right. So one of the things that I'd like to get a better idea of here, Brian, for everybody's sake, is what kind of audience we have. Like, do we have this group of experts and negotiators? So we're going to ask you this question here, everybody. Please chime in. Rate your negotiating skills. How do you rate your negotiating skills as an expert, decent, or lousy? And I got to tell you, growing up, I was a lousy negotiator. I was not a born negotiator, right? My parents always outwitted me. I never seemed to be able to get the best of my parents and my friends and stuff. They got the best of me. So let me know what you think of your own negotiating skills. Don't worry, your name's not attached to this. You can just be as transparent as you want to be. Um, Antonio wants another option, Brian, somewhere between lousy and decent. I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling. Um,
Oh,
So yeah, rate. So if you're just jumping on here with us, Tom, welcome. Oh boy, some fractured bones in the lower mid back. Ouch. Well, yeah, you might still be able to participate in your negotiating skills, and certainly knowing what we're about to share might help when you're negotiating with medical professionals and those that are trying their darndest to get you to get a lot of surgeries when you may not need it. All right. So it looks like we've gotten a pretty good response here, Brian, on what kind of group we have here. All right. So here we go. I think y'all are going to be interested in seeing the results. So look what we got here. So 50% feel they're a lousy negotiator. And again, that's where I was when I was first getting started. So I can fully understand. Decent negotiators are 33%, and actually we got 70% that are experts. All right, very good. So this will be fun. Um, so when y'all think of, especially my experts out there, please put in the chat. Please put in there uh, what you think the keys to negotiating are. Share that with everybody. Like, if someone was to ask you, what is the key or keys to negotiating? What comes to mind? Brian, what comes to mind? And you can't use what we're about to share, of course, but what would be the common knowledge? What would be the more mainstream thoughts on good negotiating?
Well, I'd always say negotiation 101, never throw out the first offer, the first number, right?
Never
You
throw
got to be
out the
careful.
first number. Yes.
Yep,
He who speaks first loses.
yep, yep.
Have y'all ever heard that before? He who says the number, he or she that says the number first. Thank you, Brian. That's absolutely. We just got someone who put in the chat, win for everyone. So a key to negotiating is that it's a win for everyone. Okay. Elizabeth, you say listen, develop key points, and you probably don't want to put your email in there. And real estate, okay, so listen and develop key points. Okay, win for everyone. All right, good. What else, you all? Listen more than you talk. Okay, good, Richard, good. Yeah. Now, of course, it's tricky when the other person knows that too, right? And they know about this whole don't say your number first. Gets a little more difficult to negotiate with somebody who already knows some of the basics of negotiating, right? All right, what else? Oh, I love that. Ready to walk out. Okay. All right. Brian, I don't know how true this is, and bringing up this person's name because he's a political leader could obviously create some kind of a change in state for some people. But I was told from people that had either done deals with or had firsthand knowledge of doing deals with current President Trump when he was just a real estate developer, was that he had a technique where right when he got everybody to the closing table, right? You got everybody surrounding this big table, especially if you think about New York City in some big high rise. Um, all he has to do is sign, right? Either as the seller or the buyer. And what he would do is he'd get up and walk out. He literally would get up and walk out. And he would do that because he'd try to flush out who was willing to drop their commission, who was willing to drop their fees. And they didn't quite know if that he would, if he was bluffing or not. So he would always get a couple of extra bucks that way. So the walkout move, I think some really famous people have used that. Latanya says keep them interested. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to dive into some keys to negotiating, and we're going to touch on some of the things that you all shared. So thanks for sharing that there in the chat. Uh, but here's where it starts. It starts with understanding this. Uh, the best deals aren't just found, they're made. The best deals aren't just found, they're made. You all have heard us talk about that before. But I know where it can get a little confusing because in the world of real estate, does made mean you build a house or you fix up the house? Is that how a good deal is made? Made when you fix it up? No, it's not what we're talking about. In fact, some of you all know that you make your money when you buy in real estate. That's a key, right? You make your money when you buy. No, when we say the best deals aren't just found, they're made, what we're saying here is the way you structure the deal, the way you negotiate the deal, that is the key. That's how you create a deal that wasn't a deal. By the way, Elizabeth, I want to also say here, you wrote in here, do not overinvest in common goal. Keep yourself unemotional, although the decisions are usually somewhat based on emotions. All right, unemotional. Yes. We're definitely going to talk about that too, Elizabeth. Well done. So if you're going to create a good deal, that starts with how you make the offer. And that starts with how you negotiate that offer. You see, y'all, if you're brand new to real estate and you're given the contact information of a motivated off-market seller, you will not put together as good of a deal as somebody that me and Brian have mentored. Same seller, same motivation, same property, want to get rid of their house, will make it a much better deal than a beginner would because of how we make that offer, how we negotiate. Have any of you all out there, have any of you all heard of a technique in real estate where someone just makes lowball offers? They literally set up an automated tool and they blast 65 cents of the list price, 65% of the list price, blast it to sellers. Have y'all ever heard of this? This is common. And it's a complete waste of time because it doesn't do what needs to be done in order to get an offer accepted. It's not that you sent an offer, it's how you present it. And so by understanding that, that allows you to better understand the importance of how you present offers and make negotiations happen. Because many of you are thinking, well, Phil, I've been on some of these live Zooms. Brian, I've been here. I've listened to your graduates, these people that have made over $500,000 with you. What are they doing so differently? I'm trying. I'm out there trying to find some deals. I'm beating the bushes. What are they doing differently? The very same seller that you may talk to, when they talk to them, they put together a great deal because of what I'm about to share with you. So again, these keys, you can take it with you with real estate and with everywhere else you negotiate. And so I hope you're taking some good notes here. Here we go. The 5 keys to real estate negotiation. We're going to talk about this thing's blocking that bottom one, Brian. Number 1 is know thy property. I'm using a little King James English there. Know thy property. Know thy seller is number 2. So not only do you have to really understand the property, and we'll go into each one of these, y'all, you have to understand the seller themselves. And then number 3, you have to ask questions that create doubt. You have to ask questions that create doubt, or doubtful questions, I call them. Number 4, permissibly drop anchor. I'm going to explain what that means in a moment. Permissibly drop anchor. And I want y'all to write this down. I want y'all to know if you write these down right now, as I break them down, you're going to better understand what they mean. And then you have to have outcome detachment, which, by the way, Elizabeth, you mentioned unemotional about the outcome, unemotional about what happens. Outcome detachment. All right. Let's start with knowing thy property. How right now, there in the chat, you all, how do you go about knowing about a property? What are y'all doing already? What steps do you take to better understand a property? Brian, what is the common approach people take to knowing a property?
Well, you can start by jumping on Zillow and
Mhm.
see what their magic tool says. You might jump out to the tax records. A lot of good information that may or may not be out there. Not saying it's super accurate all the time on valuations and things like that. But if you're starting to get into the nuts and bolts of the property, right? We're talking roofs and foundations and windows, walls, and doors and floors. You got to go do the tour, right?
Mhm. Sure, sure. So, Brian, for those people that are hoping that they can do real estate, and I've seen this phrase, by the way, armchair real estate investing. For those that can do that want to do armchair real estate investing and never go look at properties, but just talk to sellers over the phone, do long distance, how are they going to know thy property if they don't even go look at it?
Well, you can put together a team. You can use a lot of tools and so forth, but I run into a lot of what I just very simply call lazy wholesalers. But just frankly, they don't want to do the work. And if you've ever been contacted by a seller who's a wholesaler and start asking a few questions and they can't answer any of them, but they stand behind, well, you'll just have to take a look at the property. You'll have to do your own diligence. And it's code for I don't know because I don't know my product. And
Yeah.
this is what we deal in. You've got to know your property.
Yeah. So knowing thy property, and in the chat there, you all, I didn't see any of what I was. I guess I didn't ask my question clearly, but related to the tools you use. So Brian mentioned Zillow. That's free, right? Just go online, it's free. We actually, what we recommend with our people is we use a series of tools, one of which is a tool called PropStream. But you don't have to use PropStream. There are some others. And we use the MLS, we use comps. And we get a crystal clear historical picture of that property. We know when it was purchased, how it was purchased, not only the amount that it was purchased for, what it was financed for, how long they've owned it. We know if there's ever been any foreclosure filings on that. We know if there's ever been bankruptcy filed. We know if there's a divorce. We know if the property owner owns other properties. We know what kind of liens could potentially be on there. All we need is an address. You give me or one of our apprentices, anybody in our program, you give us an address, and we can tell you an encyclopedia about that property. And that's again, we use specific tools, right, to get that information. That's ever before we ever go look at a property. And that, of course, as you get better trained in exactly how we do what we do, 5 to 10 minutes, and we can have an incredibly clear picture. We can literally go meet that seller and know more about their property than they could have ever imagined, that clearly than they ever knew. So you have to know thy property. Brian, I get people sometimes, and the latest was my brother's son and my nephew. He's a freshman in college, and he's like, "Hey, one of my fraternity buddies, his parents is looking to sell the house near the university. Is it a good deal, Uncle?" And texted me the address. Isn't that interesting, right? Is it a good deal? Okay, well, that's not even the question. It's the wrong question, right? Because good deals are not found, they're made. What the address tells me is that I can start to learn about the property, but I still have to learn about the seller. I have a long way to go before there's a good or a bad deal. So an address, if any of you are thinking, hey, I wish I could just send Phil an address. Um, well, doesn't really work that way. We first have to know the property, but then as we'll go to number two, we have to know thy seller, and we have to understand more about the situation. So we present our offer, we negotiate to create the deal. The deal is not the deal just because of an address. The deal becomes a deal through this process. All right. Well, by the way, just to let y'all know, I forgot to share it earlier. We do have a special guest coming in here here in just a little bit, and he'll be sharing his experiences with negotiating with our program. And he's been very successful, graduated, and he loves this topic, right? He just loves the whole experience. So he'll be coming here shortly. So know thy property, use the tools. And once you've done all that, before you ever get to the property, you have this clear picture. You've studied the comps. We're talking not only the closed sales, but also active, pending, anything that's expired. You go into that meeting with that seller, and you're equipped. You know what's going on. So that's know thy property. But that's just the beginning, because even if you know the property, we then have to know thy seller. We have to know why they're selling. We need to know what their circumstances are. We need to know if they're an expert in real estate and they've been a real estate agent for 25 years, or if they hate real estate because their only other experience was a complete train wreck and they just want to get rid of this mess. We need to know thy seller, and that's where someone had brought up in the topic of negotiating the idea of listening. It's more than that. It's asking good questions. It's about building rapport. So we have a whole process we teach our apprentices on how you go about that meeting with that seller. How do you get their defenses, bring their guard down so you can start to get them to open up, so you can get to know them. Now, you can know thy seller a little bit from what I just shared with the tools that we use between the MLS and data aggregators like PropStream to really understand the story behind it. But then you get the full picture when you really get to connect with the seller. And this is another thing that just can't be automated. This is something that you do directly. Either you start on the phone and then you do in person. And this is where it's so powerful to be right there on the ground. And Brian, you brought up about being lazy. I think I've seen a fair number of people too that just they're scared to go meet with sellers. Have you seen that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the biggest question is, what if they ask me a question I don't know the answer? I'm
That's
supposed to
right.
be the expert.
That's right. Yeah. So one of the things that we do with our apprentices in our program is we really work with them to understand how to approach that meeting, how to handle those curveball questions, and how to go to that meeting with confidence so that you can really get to know thy seller and know thy property as you walk around, as you're saying, Brian, you start to inspect these different items. So again, you're thinking, Phil, what does this have to do with offers and negotiating? It has everything to do with it. You have to start with step one and step two. You have to know thy property, and then you got to know thy seller. And when you know those two things, watch what happens next. You then need to ask doubt creating questions. And you can't ask these questions if you don't know the property and the seller. And as you walk around that property, I'm going to give you an example. If you had done your homework, you would have known the property's on a septic. And so an example would be, when's the last time you had your septic inspected? We already know the answer to that, everybody. They haven't inspected their septic, maybe ever, but if they ever did, it was at the time they purchased. And if they bought the house 7 years ago, it's, well, I've never had an inspector. I got it inspected when I bought it. Oh, are you aware that you're supposed to inspect your septic every 2 years? You see how that created some doubt? So, so you don't know if there's roots growing into your septic tank. You don't know if your drain field has been crushed in. You don't know that, do you? Because it hadn't been inspected, right? Hmm. Okay. You see how that works? You're creating doubt. Or and then there's so many different ways to slice this. But if you look at that roof while you're with the seller and you're just staring at it, uh, when's the last time you replaced this? They've never replaced it, right? Unless it's brand new. I've never replaced a roof. Mm. Yeah, I did some research online. I didn't see any permits pulled, so it's been a long time since this roof's been replaced. Interesting. See how that creates doubt? You're asking questions, but you had to know what was going on before you got there. And so what's happening is you've gone from in this in-person meeting, you've gone from building rapport, getting to know thy seller a little bit, to now you're asking these doubtful questions. Everybody tracking? I want to see on the chat here, make sure everybody's with me. So right there in the chat, say, I'm with you, Phil. I'm following. Hey, Phil, I'm having a good time. Hey, Phil, this is great. Want to make sure you're all there. Okay. Yes, yes, with me. All right, good, good, good. All right, so once you've laid that foundation of asking doubtful, they're intelligent questions. And this is something we teach those in our program, exactly how to do this. You ask those intelligent questions. Uh, what you end up doing is you set up this, the permission to drop anchor. Okay, so is anybody aware of the principle of anchoring? Anybody aware of this? It came from one of the best books you'll ever read by a guy named Robert Cialdini. The name of the book is Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. This guy was a professor at Arizona State University, and he was so frustrated at always being the sucker. He used to like buy things on infomercials, and he was always the sucker. And as a professor one day, he said, I need to study why some people get suckered. And he ended up developing an entire body of psychology, the psychology of persuasion. He literally invented a form of study on psychology. And that book is his explanation of that psychology. And in that book, he talks about the concept of anchoring. So, how many of you all have watched one of those HGTV shows where they have to show them three houses? Maybe it's three houses in Cabo, Mexico, or it's three houses in Madison, Wisconsin. And if you ever noticed on those shows, the first thing they do is they bring the buyer to a house that's more than they can afford. Have y'all ever seen this? Right? So they said my budget, and they usually have that voiceover. Their budget is between 350 and 450,000. And then the first house they look at is 550,000. Y'all see this? Wondered why they're doing this? That's the principle of anchoring. By showing them a $550,000 house first, it makes the 450,000, which was the high end of their range, makes that seem lower. They do the same thing at car dealerships. They do the same thing at suit stores. You name it. You show the buyer something higher in the beginning, so it makes the other offer or the other thing they're looking for seem like a better deal. Well, we adapted that, Brian, myself, and the team, to real estate by making a lower offer. And so by anchoring a lower offer, anything else that ends up happening ends up being a better deal. Now, Brian, one of the things I absolutely loved, and there's not enough of these out there anymore because they all kind of went belly up, was the folks that did We Buy Ugly Houses. They would come in and do these lowball offers, but they didn't follow the process we're teaching y'all right now. And so they didn't get offers accepted very often, but they started with such a lowball offer that when we got to the seller, we seemed like a great offer. Okay. So, yeah, we don't get that benefit as much as the good old days. But what does it mean to drop anchor? It means that your initial offer is lower. You drop it. You're setting the anchor. You're setting your anchor. And it might be not price, it might be terms. It always depends. Every deal's different. And you have to know thy seller and you have to ask great questions to know where to be with that anchor. Every anchor is going to be different. But you have to do one other thing. You have to get permission. Because if you don't get permission, this anchor is going to drop like a thud. It's not going to work. They'll get offended. It won't help. You've got to start with, hey, do you understand? And is it okay if I'm a real estate investor and that I have to make a profit? Is that okay? Say you're getting permission. And is it okay if I'm not going to offer as much as, say, if you hired a real estate agent? Are you okay with that? Okay, why would you be okay with that? Well, I guess because if you just bought the property from me, I wouldn't have to deal with showings and all this other stuff. I'd just make it easy. See how you did that? You got permission, and you got permission as to why. That makes sense. So now when you drop the anchor, it's a little bit easier to go down. It's like, you're giving them a cookie instead of just vegetables, if you will. Make sense? Okay. And that brings us to number 5. Then you have to detach yourself from the outcome. Now, look, your initial anchor may not be the final deal you work out, but it sets the stage. So now, as you massage and go back and forth on the deal, you already are starting from a position of greater strength, and then by detaching yourself from the outcome, not getting emotional, that allows you to negotiate the best deal. Because when you have what someone mentioned, walkaway power, that's when you have the key to putting this all together. If you can walk away from any negotiation, you are in the best position. Now, it doesn't mean you end up walking away. Every deal's different, and if you know thy property, then you know where you need to be. You know when you're in that range of it being a win-win for everybody, because it's got to be a win for you. You've got to make money too, and whether the seller is just too far out of range. And when you can back off, sometimes it's not right away. Sometimes it's a month later they call you back, and sometimes it's a day later. They acted all big and tough, but because you were detached from the outcome, they come back. Now, Brian, I've always thought it's real funny that anytime we have a situation, and it's pretty often, where we do a multiple offer, and the winner of the multiple offer, we contract to sell it to, and then about 2 days later, a straggler comes along and offers even more than the person we're already under contract with. Our first thought is what? Get rid of the lower buyer, right?
Oh, it makes us the best inspection negotiator ever. Absolutely.
But what ends up usually happening? I mean, when we try to get rid of the original
Oh,
buyer.
yeah, they know they want a multiple offer and everyone wants to beat them out. So they just go, okay, I'll just buy it.
That's
So it
right.
doesn't work.
Yeah, so they do the inspection. They ask us, "Hey, will you fix this and fix that?" And of course, us, we have a buyer waiting in the wings that's going to pay more. So we're like, "No, we're not going to fix that. Nope, not going to fix that either. Nope, we're not touching anything." And they go, "Are you sure? There's some real electrical problems here." I There might be, but we're not fixing anything. Hoping they will back out, and they never do. So when you're detached from the outcome, it's a game changer in the way that you negotiate. So y'all, that is the formula. And I hope you wrote that down. I hope you're able to track what we shared there because when you apply these 5 keys, you can do this. You can do this when you're buying a car, you can do this when you're trying to negotiate with your spouse on something. Know the situation, ask those doubtful questions that position you best, permissibly drop that anchor, and then be detached from the outcome. All right. Well, Brian, I'm excited to invite on our special guest, and so Andre, if you're in the backstage right now, come on down. And it's real special because Andre graduated from our program, which means he made over $500,000. We shared 50-50. There he is. Hey, Andre.
Hey Phil, how's it going?
Going great. Thank you so much for being here. As always, everybody, it's a big ordeal when we're able to get one of our graduates on here because they're very busy, have a lot going on. And Andre, we've been talking about negotiating tonight. I know how much you love it, but let's start here at the beginning of tonight. I asked everybody where they rated themselves as a negotiator. Before you were in our program, before you were a real estate investor, did you consider yourself an expert negotiator? Were you just born with that gene?
Oh, might have frozen up there.
He's a little tongue-tied. It's first time being live here. Um, so before as we're waiting for Andre to get back on, when he joined this program, he was brand new to all this stuff. This was all brand new to him. But he soaked it up like a sponge. He really enjoyed the every aspect of the process because I remember Brian. I mean, he went through our materials in such detail, and I loved it because I could tell he was picking up on it real fast. And he asked me real detailed questions, which only could have occurred if he had been really engaged in. And we have a series of different tutorials and trainings as people get started to lay that foundation of how they go about this. Because once they've got the foundation laid, then Brian, myself, and the team, we can take people to a whole new level. All right, we'll try this again here.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here now.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, no worries. So here's where we left off. When you first got started in real estate, just getting going, did you consider yourself from birth born to be a great negotiator? Or where would you have rated yourself in the beginning?
So naturally, I'm very introvert. I'm the kind of person that don't like in front of people or negotiating at all. So I discovered, through the process that you're to questions and you just assimilating and trying to figure out what's happening, perhaps the property, perhaps with their the life, and just being someone that they are listening to, you know
Yeah, he's definitely got some tough.
sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then just getting to know them a little bit more. And then when it becomes to the quote unquote negotiation, it's a much easier transition when you engage with sellers.
Yeah. So for those of you who are introverted, for those of you that are nervous to talk to sellers, um, you can relate to Andre here. I mean, you could tell me personally, I'm pretty outgoing. I'm pretty extroverted. I was voted most talkative as my superlative in high school, Brian. So it was it was no stretch for me to get in front of a seller and start yakking. What I had to learn, my discipline was how to listen, ask questions, and not do the talking. For Andre, of course, here it was getting comfortable meeting with those sellers. And so Andre, what was it like when you're first getting started and meeting with those sellers? Were you apprehensive, and how did you overcome that?
So I think it was just trying to be myself, just try to be myself. I didn't want to pretend somebody that I wasn't, right? So I just pulled in with my beat up car, it was just myself, just trying to get to know them. And throughout the conversations, throughout the process, just getting more and more about what they need, and having that conversation, you know on face to face, and it made them feel more comfortable, and it made myself feel more comfortable as well.
That's a really important point, everybody. Andre, thanks for bringing that up.
Hmm.
Brian, we see that where people want to act bigger than they are. They feel like they don't have a nice enough car or they don't have nice enough clothes, and that they have to show up to that house and meet that seller and basically act like they're this real estate tycoon rather than what Andre said. Be yourself. That's better. Don't drive a super nice car to that house because then they think you're too rich. Don't we Andre, we had a guest on here, and he had showed up his on his first deal on a bicycle. Now that's a little extreme, but it got the job done. So so you've done a whole lot of deals, you've done a lot of negotiating. Um, what do you like? What's fun about the negotiation and the offer making process?
Fun. I mean, I think I would say that, just trying to come up with solutions to what their needs, and when you come up with the solution, things becomes much easier to negotiate with the seller, and that's really uh, what I love about doing this face to face with sellers, and even over the phone as well. Sometimes we get sellers that are introverts as well, even locally, and they don't want to see you yet. They want to have a conversation, and get to know them over the phone, and we can do that too. So that's what I would say, that getting to solve a problem, um, and that's what I really truly like about it.
Yeah, Brian, we had Bryce and Julianne on a couple of weeks ago, right? And they were talking about people and paperwork, and this is the people part. Um, I love what you mentioned too. Like as you've gotten more and more advanced in your career, you get to know the people. And if you sense they're an introvert, you might approach that just a little bit differently than the extroverted chatty Cathy, the Phil type, right? uh, yeah, that's a great point. So, um, what uh, what what have been some of the bigger lessons you've learned along the way on what not to do when negotiating with motivated sellers?
Um, so not to do. mm, I would say, one of the things that I brought up first is, like, you have to be myself. So every time I try to do something that I'm not myself, like, like if I want to come in or show show up, like, I have so much money, just laying around, that's not really what the seller, or I rarely gain any deals or sign contracts just because of that. 'Cause you're just going to be people just like any other 10 people that you're going to see, and you need to stand out and be a little more different, more engaging with them. And that's where it's at. That's where I've noticed that's where uh, we do most of the deals, where we're coming from.
Yeah, you touch on an important topic too, and that is the topic of trust. Building that trust with that seller when that's done right, that does open so many doors to negotiating that you don't get when you don't create that trust. I love that point. I mean, you can't be somebody you're not. You can't make things up. You can't do any of that because it all boils back down to that seller has got to trust you. And that's where you break that trust. That's a huge no-no. Um, what about making too high of an offer? Have you run into that problem before?
Yes, every time and I've tested this throughout the time. When you make too much of an offer, um, then and if sometimes sellers also get skeptical because they're talking to other people, and um, and if you are way too high, then they think that there's something that you're not revealing. So
Mhm.
this is why I prefer to start lower and then try to anchor something and try to discover or try to peel the onion on what exactly, what else am I missing here that I can do for the seller? Perhaps, by anchoring lower and they come back with a counter offer to you, then you can get to discover all the things that perhaps you didn't you didn't know on the first conversation you have with them. Maybe in the first hour of conversation you have with them, and because you can always go up on your offer amount, right? Let's say if you meet somewhere in the middle with the seller, but if you start too high, then you can't go much higher. It makes things more harder to come down, right? So if you offer too much and then you come down without any justification, then you lose them altogether. Now,
Mhm.
if there are things that come up later on inspection and things like that, then you can justify things during an inspection period because you can prove, hey, there's something going on with the roof, or like you said on the beginning, something going on with the septic that nobody knew about it, right? And now you have a good justification, something to come back and get a credit for example, right? Without losing that trust.
Yeah, yeah, it is such a big mistake, everybody, to over offer. We say that so much for beginners, right, Brian? They get nervous, and the first thing that they do is they blurt out too high of an offer. They don't set an anchor. They throw out a life raft. There's no anchor.
Hmm.
Well, and
So,
absolutely. And as you brought up from the very outset, you got to know the property. And then you're in that meeting, you're getting to know the seller. It's as you said, you got to listen more than you talk. You got to spend the time building that trust, that rapport, because at the end of the day, people want to work with people they like. And Andres, I think that's what you have made clear here. You take the time, you invest the time to build a relationship. And these are folks that aren't just looking at numbers, they're looking at, hey, you understand where I'm at and you can solve my problem. And a lot of folks we work with, is that that's what you still run into. I mean, people with problems, and that's what you're doing is solving problems, right?
Correct.
yeah, so how is real estate, how has that impacted your daily life? Like, for example, are you a full-time investor at this point? And if so, how long? How is this skill of negotiating and making offers, what has that done for you?
So it's been full time, probably what's that, like 8 years now, full
Mhm.
time. Since I quit my job. So then I've been doing it since then. I've been through the COVID era, when things were frozen, and then all the craziness through 2021, 22, and now the interest rates going up, and things are a little slow, but we're still there. So I've been in the ups and downs of the business. And what has done to me, it has created definitely freedom to me and my family. In fact, today, we just came out of our closing of our home, and we are now looking for a new place where to live. We're moving in, and basically, we're not gonna have a mortgage anymore. on our primary residence, you know, of you know, having to break from work in the middle of the day and go um, see the kids, pick them up, take them to the beach, and or to Disney. We're just like 20 minutes behind Disney, and an afternoon, the things that you really want to do. So at the beginning, yes, it's a lot of work. You need to put the work, and then over time, it's just rewarding.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Obviously, you even on your primary residence, brilliant negotiating because we were talking about that the other day about how you structured that. Now, are you applying these negotiating techniques to the new property you're buying?
Yes, for sure. I apply it to anything during my day to day, negotiating with the kids. Hey dad, can I have $20 to go? Well, did you do your chores, right? Did you just make sure you anchor them, did you do this? And ask questions, even to the kids. I don't hey, how was the school? And so on. So those are the things that I apply it to my daily routine on my day to day. Yeah, with my wife. She also knows. She's like, are you trying to negotiate with me? You know, so there's no negotiation with a wife, but I try.
That's exactly right. My wife does the same thing. So you're not going to use this stuff on me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's wonderful. Now look, as a full-time real estate investor, I think, yeah, it's freedom, right? But it's still work, right? I mean, there's still things that have to be done, right? You still have to be consistent, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you were sharing with me that that you even had a lot more going on even a year or two ago, and you've almost had to pull that back a little bit, discipline yourself because you enjoyed so much that process of negotiating with sellers and would the deal show, would the deal come together, would it not come together? So you've even pulled back just a hair, right? Just to have a little bit more time with the family.
Yeah. So I've been, when I'm in full time, I've been doing it. Once I quit my job, I was doing it consistently every day. Once I figure out, okay, this is what works, right? This is how negotiating looks like. This is how getting a contract signed looks like. This is how we get the funding for it, and how my exit is gonna be. Then it just became second nature to me. And then I was doing it consistently every single day. I still have a small team working with me throughout, and I was doing it almost every weekend. But then I got to the point where, like, I think I need to stop a little bit and start enjoying the fruits, of my labor, everything that I've done. And I still do it. Um, more part time, and I have a team that also does it with me. I have somebody that is on the calls, set up the appointments. I have somebody else that then doing the paperwork once the contracts are signed. I already have a team of who the title company is going to be, who's the lawyer is going to be for that, who's going to be the contractor, the inspector, and all of that. So everything's just communicating, one, all of it together, and I'm just just right there overseeing how everything plays out and getting to the execution part of the CEO mentality of, okay, what do we need to do with this? How are we going to exit, and making sure that things come together all the way through the end.
For y'all listening, does that sound fun to you? Is that the kind of lifestyle you'd like to have? You're watching it right here. You're watching somebody who talks about he takes his kiddos over to Disney World because they're not too far away. And hey, if they want to go to the beach, they can. He's got a good team in place. How's that
Hmm.
sound? I know when I was first getting started, uh, what you just described, Andre, was a dream. And back then we didn't have Zoom like this. I couldn't have gone and actually met all these different people that had that lifestyle, but that's what I wanted too. And I hope, and that's why we called this company Freedom Mentor. I remember I still remember I was. My wife was shopping. Surprise, surprise. So she's out there shopping, and I'm in the car because I can't stand shopping. And I was like, uh, our company, like what really is it that we do? Well, we try to create freedom for people, and we do that through mentoring. Well, our company name should be Freedom Mentor. That's how I got started. So very inspiring, Andre. That is just wonderful. I'm so excited for you and your family that you all get to have that experience. I'm thrilled to hear that you're now mortgage free as you're selling the current primary residence and being able to plow that into the right deal for the next one. Um, Lord willing, I've been keeping tabs on it here in Florida. Lord willing, the that bill to reduce or eliminate property taxes for Floridians, their homesteaded property taxes. That'll be real nice. So then you'll only be down to a little bit of insurance, and that's it for your house bill.
Mhm.
Uh, hey, you all, if you've got additional questions for Andre, now'd be a good time to ask him. Again, Andre, so great that you're here. Um, and so Maurice says, "Let's go. The early bird sits at the table and eats first." Yeah, yeah. This is real, everybody. This is what absolutely happens. Now, again, Andre, as he shared, he's been full time for almost 8 years now. He after graduating for our program, he had a transition. But this can be you. This is not a pipe dream. This is real, and it's a business that always exists and it's always productive year in year out, whether the interest rates are high or low. The biggest fear now these days, Andre, is this concept of AI taking everybody's job. It's not going to take the job of real estate. Everybody needs a place to live. It's completely detached from that. All right. By the way, Stephanie put in the chat, everybody, that the entire detailed story of Andre. Brian and I did an interview with him recently, and you can watch that there. A lot more intel on his story. All right. So Antonio says, how long did it take you to be able to pay off your primary home after starting real estate? Um, Andre, you're talking about a property you bought several years ago, and then now you're selling, right? And that's where you generated enough equity to be able to own
The
a home
last
for you.
one. So yes, I've been since I started in Virginia. That's where I started, and then we moved to Central Florida. So we've been rolling. You know, my very first home that I bought in Virginia. After I was in Freedom Mentor, it was a subject to, and we got a little bit of equity in there. Sold it, rolled that equity into the another house in Virginia, rolled the equity, moved to Florida when nobody was buying any houses during COVID. I saw an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, right? So then I negotiated a deal with the builder of this property, and they gave me a deal. They gave me a great discount. Some furniture was included, and we bought that house. Took out a mortgage for that, and then yes, it increased significantly also in equity, plus the pay down and all the down payment that I've been rolling through the years. And so now I have enough equity that I can just go buy a house outright, which is what I want. Let's see if the wife wants to do that, and she's still thinking about it. Um, and
That's right.
again, we're weighing in our options right now. We are staying for a few weeks at a Disney parks, and then we're looking uh, the next house here this weekend. Actually, we're gonna be touring a few houses, and that's the idea. I just want freedom. I'm a simple guy, and it just takes some time. It's not easy. I think that was his question, how long it took. It's not easy, but you'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question, Antonio. You'll get there. Now, Andre, if you're staying in the world's most magical place, yeah, it's gonna be a hard act to follow to find a home that's as magical as Disney World. Uh, Very
Yeah.
good. Well, you all, I hope you've been inspired by Andre. Definitely shared some tremendous wisdom on negotiating. Tell him thank you there in the chat, you all. If you're appreciative for Andre being here, you can see he's gone to great lengths as well. I think you're on your phone here and you just got done earning an enormous amount of money from selling your property. Um, Michelle said they missed the whole replay. Oh, missed a good one tonight. We'll try to sum it all up for you. Uh, all right. Well, everybody's telling you thank you right now, Andre. Yeah, this has been real special to have you here. So if you all would like to be like Andre, if you would like to set a path to where you have tremendous freedom, you can. This is real. You can be in a situation financially like Andre is in. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but when you have the right team behind you and you get this dialed in, hey, it's going to be a few years down the road before you know it. I mean, a snap of a finger. And when it does, isn't it nice when you don't even have a house bill anymore and you've got freedom? And if you want to go do something on an afternoon with your family, you can. Or if you want to take a trip to Vegas, you can. That's real. And the way he got there and the way you can get there as well is through our mentoring, working with Brian, myself, and our team. So if you would like to learn more about what that's like, if you'd like to learn more, if you've got questions and you'd like to know more about, hey, how do I become like Andre? How do I get mentored by Brian, by Phil, and the team? What I'd like for you to do is select yes here. It's going to pop up for you that you'd like to learn more about being mentored by us. So click yes there if you'd like to be mentored or to learn more about what that's all about. Because our program is structured in a way where we work with you until you're successful. So we worked with Andre until he had made $500,000 in net profits from his real estate deals. And the way it worked was we shared in those profits 50-50. 250 to us, 250 to him. It was a win-win situation. It was a situation where when he succeeded, we succeeded. And that's the magical formula that has produced such extraordinary results for our people. That's why when you're on these each week and you get to meet another graduate, another person who's made $500,000, you probably are thinking to yourself, how many of these people are there? There's a lot, as you can see. We have done this for a lot of different people, and it's because of the formula of mutually aligned interests. When you succeed, we succeed. So click yes if you'd like to learn more about being mentored by me and Brian and the team. In fact, Andre has done some cameo appearances on the mentoring side as well in the past, and he's been very helpful. That's every one of our coaches. Everybody on our team has graduated from this program. They've all been incredibly successful, and they remain successful. They stay in the business because it's such a darn good business. But obviously, you've got to know exactly what you're doing, and if you don't have the right mentorship, you don't have the right knowledge, hey, it's tough. It's tough out there. But when you have it all right, it's like a puzzle. You get all the pieces together, it's magical. Okay, so for those of you that would like to learn more about being mentored by me and our team, um, what I want you to do here is select whether you would like to connect with us tonight. We have a few team members available to answer your questions. Or if you would like to connect with us later, learn more about it, and put that on a calendar for you that fits better into your schedule. We we try to make it as easy as possible for you because we know how difficult it is to get it all scheduled. In fact, giving you a heads up, we try to do this in 1 hour, so we're right on schedule right now. So if you would like to connect to learn more about our mentoring program, select on there either right now or schedule for later. Um, right now or schedule for later. And again, if you have questions, I see some questions there in the chat. Again, connect with our team. So you can select right now or schedule for later. We uh, we love this, by the way. Brian, isn't this fun? Isn't this fun hanging out with Andre and hearing what he's up to?
Oh, absolutely. And Andre, thank you so much for everything you shared because, one of the things that may not have come out as clear, but it did to me is the freedom that you have achieved is so integrally tied to the negotiating skills you learned and still maintain today. You're the CEO, you got people working for you, you got an organization really, but you are still out there talking with sellers
Yes,
because
right?
that's where you make your money. And that's just wonderful to see what you've achieved and the freedom you've gained from it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, for those of you that selected schedule for later, we're almost wrapped up here, Andre, as well. Just a moment more here, and then what I want y'all to do, and we'll put this also in the chat. If you would like to connect with us later, what I'd like for you to do is, if you can see this, you go to freedommentor.com/schedule. Again, that link is right there in the chat, and select the time. Select the time available. We are super busy, as you can see, the next couple of days, but we can connect. We get a little bit of time. One of our team members, his Sabbath day is Saturdays, by the way, so he's available on Sunday to connect with you. Otherwise, Monday or Tuesday of next week. And we'd love to speak with you, answer your questions, help you get a better understanding of who we are, what we do, and if we're going to be a good fit together. Well, Andre, it has been an absolute pleasure. You are the man. Thank you for being here tonight. Tell your family thank you as well. I know this was a sacrifice to put all this together, so big thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, Brian, thank you as well for taking time out of your evening and being here with us.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. So next, everyone, we're going to play a video to get you can hear others who have been in our program and their experiences as well. And again, for those of you that have got questions, I can see some of those in the chat related to our mentoring. That's exactly why you want to connect with our team. We'll also have a phone number and a text. You can text us here in just a moment to reach out to our team to get your questions answered. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Thanks for being with us tonight. And for those of you that are interested in our mentoring program, looking forward to mentoring you all. Thanks, everybody.